just to welcome everybody and thank everybody for coming. Some of you have come from sort of 200 meters down the road. Some of you have come from the other side of the planet. So thanks to those who've come so far. This sort of meeting is always a little bit like a wedding. When I stand up here, I see all the different people from all the different parts of MMV's life all together. So just like with a wedding, then some of you don't know each other, that's fine. Part of the purpose of this meeting is that you actually get to know new people. So at the cocktail party tonight, do me a favor, do not leave without having introduced yourself to 2 or 3 new people. And that's part of the way the networking goes. Okay, so we're on a very tight time schedule. So the appeal to everybody is after the coffee breaks, can you please come back to the room and take your seats as soon as possible? Because if we spend 5 minutes sitting down, then that's 5 minutes less discussion, and we're actually here for discussion today. So with that, no further ado, apart from, I have the disclaimer slide, there you go. I volunteered to show this, but those of you who work in industry know that. We have a meeting where we have lots of different companies together and lots of different groups, so it's just to say these are the opinions of each individual person, and just be careful that these are not, they're not legal statements that people are making, that we're trying to get everybody to discuss the future, and there's a certain amount about the future that we don't know. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Joy Phumaphi, who's going to kick off the first session. Joy is the ex-health minister of Botswana. She's the chair of RBM. She's been on our board for Rollback Malaria. She's been on our board now for just over 10 years. I think it's fair to say that she's also almost the Malaria Africa's spiritual godmother of our organization. So she's somebody who really has helped us a lot in terms of, like all good board members, having the right thing to say at the right moment to help us to focus on the real question. So it's a real honor to have you here today, Joy, and thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot, Tim. It's nice to be referred to as a godmother. It makes you feel very mature, which of course I am, which you can tell from my white hair. But it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. And it has been an honor and a privilege to serve as a board member of MMV. Primarily because I think, like all of you, my major motivation being a development worker is the health and well-being primarily of children. Because if we want our future to be better and our present to be better, we have to focus on the youth, who in Africa are most of the mothers, and on the children. That's how you are going to build effective human capital. So MMV has been focusing precisely on this by focusing on malaria. And I believe that malaria is not just a disease of poverty, which we often refer to as a disease of poverty, but it is a disease that gives us an opportunity to create a better future. Because by addressing malaria, you can strengthen your engagement with communities. You make the communities able to take care of themselves better, because you don't just address their health, but you address environmental factors. You address nutrition. You are able to have a generation of children who have got better cognitive development than the previous population cohorts. So you increase productivity levels. You are able to strengthen health systems, whether it is through supply chain or through genomic surveillance. Malaria is a very dynamic and systemic disease, and addressing it helps you strengthen primary health care and strengthen the ability of communities, not just to engage more effectively, but also to combat other diseases. I believe you are all familiar with the reason why MMV exists, and that over 1.3 billion courses of malaria prevention medicines have been delivered. That is absolutely amazing. And that you have, right now as I speak to you, I have a mother in Brazil whose child might be endangered by Plasmodium vivax, who has been able to use tafenoquine. We have a mother right now as I speak to you in Nigeria who is able to use a quantum dispersible in order to save her child's life. We have a mother in Central Africa who has been able to give her child access to seasonal malaria chemoprevention because of MNV. We have been able to give multiple self-line treatments by being a partner. So we are not just a partner in developing the medication, but also in delivering them through ALAM, a partnership which has enabled us to make first-line treatments rapidly accessible to as many children as possible in countries like Burkina Faso, Kenya, Tanzania, all over the African continent. So MNV is not just focusing on a partnership with those people, the scientists who are going to develop the new technologies and be able to produce them, but those who are also going to deliver them. And we have gone even further in terms of doing technology transfer to manufacturers on the African continent so that we can build sustainability. So this is MNV. MNV is a vehicle of the future. We are creating a better world for our children and for the youth of today. So what happened when we realized that we're losing a CEO? David Reddy had been with us for so long that we now associated MNV and the success of MNV with David Reddy. And all of us felt traumatized as board members. So we started searching for this elusive unicorn that would have leadership, vision, strategic thinking, the type of personal attributes that can inspire trust, integrity, create a culture of communication. And we thought, where are we going to find this unicorn? Fortunately for us, we did find a unicorn. And we found a unicorn that not only had the traditional expectations that we had, the relevant experience over 2 decades, 25 years, R&D expertise, working with a major pharmaceutical and all of that, disease profile, having worked with HIV, AIDS, TB, neglected tropical diseases, but also a type of leader who doesn't only have a clear vision and is inspirational, but has got good communication skills and strategic thinking. This was a very, 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 very lucky for us as MNV. And it therefore gives me great pleasure to introduce this leader to you. He is fostering trust and continuing the culture of integrity within MNV and the culture of transparency and good ethics that are so important for us, and that has created the reputation, good reputation that we currently have, and the trust that patients, mothers that I was talking about earlier on, currently have in MNV. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our partner, Martin Fitchet, the CEO of MNV.
Wow. It's a first for me. I'm a unicorn. But Joy, Thank you so much for those extremely kind words. But much more importantly, thank you for your leadership in the fight against malaria. We keep going. But also for part of our family, for just being such an important and incredibly motivating and inspiring guide, mentor, and inspiration to all of us in MMV as a serving member of our board for the last 10 years. Thank you. Could we give a round of applause for John? So ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, a very warm welcome to you all today at this symposium. Thank you for coming at probably one of the most busy times of year. I think this is a really good sign. We have such an incredible attendance, a real quorum for our global partnership. And I think we're going to have a really fun, enjoyable, informative, interactive day together. So why are we all here? We're here to celebrate a little. We're here to rekindle friendships and partnerships, but we've worked together bringing forward innovation over the last 25 years. But most importantly, I hope that the interactions and the conversations, the questions and the insights can help build new partnerships to take us into the future. The goal for us is to meet, network, and discuss, to challenge each other and see how we can accelerate our innovation. There is urgency here to find even greater efficiency, speed, scientific quality, and breakthrough transformational treatments. But to ensure that this transformational vision, to your point, Joy, is also accessible and affordable. Coming from pharma, transformational innovation is hard enough. Making that built in from the very beginning to be accessible and to meet the needs of communities with malaria or at risk of malaria, that's really difficult, and we need your help. So if you'll indulge me, over the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'd like to take you on a journey of where we've been, where we are now, and where I hope we can all go together in the future. 1998. Now that was a different climate from today in many ways. 12 people, one of whom was Marcel Tanner. Where are you, Marcel? Who was in the room, thank you for coming, met up in the Skycom Center at Geneva Airport. It was a meeting organized by the Swiss Development Corporation and had people from Rockefeller, from Wellcome, from Glaxo, Roche, and the wider support of industry, including IFPMA and ABPI. This was felt to be a new beginning, and so started in a neutral venue, not just Switzerland, but a halfway house between industry and the public sector. What was the challenge? The challenge was market failure. How to bring back innovation to diseases where there simply wasn't any money to be made, no financial incentive to fund R&D. The suggestion was an entirely new entity was needed, a partnership, bringing together the expertise of industry, basic science, medicine, funding partners, and investigators, scientists, and communities in malaria-endemic countries, all in order to discover, develop, and provide access to new drugs for neglected and infectious diseases. So what was the disease area? Before the meeting, the idea was to work on a variety of diseases. I am giving a good account of the meeting, Marcel. I wasn't there. But fortunately, the strategic desire to have some focus won the day, and the decision was to focus on malaria. So why were new malaria drugs needed? You'll recall at that time, malaria was claiming well over 1 million lives a year, most of whom were children. In the previous 25 years to that meeting, only 3 new drugs have been launched: sulfadoxine pyrimethamine in 1967, and mefloquine in 1989, all 3 by Roche. To be fair, 2 other very important medicines were just around the corner, with the approval of our favorite protection medicine for travelers, atovaquone proguanil, Malaria, from Glaxo in 2000. We were also on the cusp of the artemisinin age. Brian Greenwood, in the audience today. Brian, where are you? Brian led the first African pediatric study with artemether lumefantrine and empowered Novartis and WHO to partner and bring forward Coartem as an incredible breakthrough new treatment in 2001. So what did we call this new concept? In public health, we love our abbreviations. For a while, there was a long debate over what should it be. Were we a PPP, a PDP, a PP, PDP? But we've always been about the one important P, partnership. There's a wonderful photograph summarizing this partnership. Tim showed it to me, of a WHO Director General shaking hands with Sir Richard Sykes, then the CEO of Glaxo, on November the 3rd, 1999. And so MMV was born. Funding came initially from the World Bank, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Swiss and Dutch governments. But we are so fortunate to have committed and trusting funding support from governments and foundations consistently over the last 2 decades. Over the years, we're grateful for the support of the Gates Foundation, the government of the United Kingdom, Australia, Ireland, European Union via EDCTP, as well as foundations such as Wellcome, the GHIT in Japan, the Wright Foundation from Korea, and the South African Medical Research Council. Thank you to all of you for being on this journey with us. How are we going to do this? Drug discovery and development is an extremely complex process. My old boss at J&J used to say, Martin, pharmaceuticals R&D isn't rocket science. It's actually much more difficult than that. Nobody knew how to do this in a global partnership and in a model with no commercial incentive. The key to our initial success, and believe carries through today, were MMV's call for proposals and also our incredible ESAC, our External Scientific Advisory Committee. Before I joined MMV, I got an email from someone called Tim Wells saying, Martin, welcome to MMV. We're going to have an ESAC the week after you join. I'd like to come and tell you all about it. I said, what's ESAC? I soon learned. My second week, I had 3 days of incredible science, and I knew I'd come to the right place. We developed the concept of mini portfolios, initially with GSK back in 2002. Rather than just having a single target and idea, GSK proposed having a range of projects and the ability to rapidly move resource and focus from one to the other according to their potential. The projects could access in-house technologies, and we were able as a partnership to leverage the massive in-kind contributions that our pharma partners could provide. But it also allowed us to develop our technologies in-house, such as the SCID mouse model. The same success was repeated later with Novartis. Sorry about that. Alex Matter recently moved to the Institute in Singapore, joined a very special 3-way collaboration with MMV and Wellcome to fund a mini portfolio of projects between Singapore and San Diego. 2 of the drugs we will talk about today came from that period, supargamine and ganaplacide. Over the years, new forms of collaborative partnerships in Africa have been developed, and we've worked with new trial networks and scientific networks such as Wanakam, Cantam, and together we built new consortia with our partners in Africa, PAM Africa, Sindofo, and most recently Sapphire. So where are we now? We've partnered to date with the approval of 18 new medicinal products. These range the gamut from new chemical entities, new formulations, and new combinations, all developed in partnership and all designed to meet an important and specific need. Today, shared in this room, our portfolio comprises more than 60 programs across a global network of over 700 R&D partners and access partners spanning 72 countries. This is why partnership is so critical. For some of these projects, MMV provided a catalytic role with a small but critical step, helping the way to get a successful product approved. For example, with Fosun, we were able to support the key step of WHO pre-qualification, allowing them to change the landscape of severe malaria. With Shimpoon and pyranidine artesunate, Pyramax, It's been a longer journey and a much more involved partnership over more than a decade, partnering all the way from phase 1 through to phase 4 trials. Either way, the projects have needed that special recipe in partnership. Long-term public health funding, MMV's expertise in convening, and the technical and operational expertise of our pharmaceutical partners, our academic partners, our investigators, our community workers, and of course, the patients and the communities we serve. Development compounds came from Cape Town, Africa's first malaria clinical development candidate, from Thailand, from Switzerland, from the US, Australia, and even Scotland. Moving these compounds forwards has required commitment from the brilliant clinical research centers in Africa, Asia, South America, in partnership with their health workers and their communities. You'll hear so much more about these projects during the day, but please indulge me as I talk about some of my favorites. With Coartem Baby and Novartis, I was last week at the kind invitation of Novartis at the launch of Coartem Baby in Ghana. We have an artemether lumefantrine now available for every age group, demonstrating a unique and safe, efficacious, specific combination for children, babies under 5 kilos. Let's not forget with GSK, our partner on a 10-year journey for tafenoquine, where together we are now collaborating with health workers and communities to transform healthcare for Vivax relapse in South America, Southeast Asia, and beyond. Again, with Novartis, there is ganoplastide, invented in San Diego by our friend Arnab Chatterjee. This has now completed phase 3 studies, and this will be the first of a new generation of compounds that don't rely on artemisinin. Caroline will talk more about this work later, but it's a really impressive journey, from the creation and elaboration of a new molecule all the way to imminent regulatory submission, and the first of a new class of antimalarials in several decades. We're really excited about the progress of long-acting injectable drugs for prevention. We've seen from HIV how these have been incredibly impactful in preventing disease, and are starting to see how these will play out in malaria in our clinical studies, and we will share some of this information with you after lunch. It's a journey where we've benefited from lessons learned in other industries. Thank you to ViiV and Gilead for being so generous with their expertise and know-how in the HIV space. And thanks to GHIP funding, new partners have been brought into this global picture, such as colleagues from Shionogi and Mitsubishi in Japan. We are now building a global pipeline of long-acting injectables. Finally, no conference would be complete with talking about artificial intelligence. And our discovery organization is reinventing itself in the days of machine learning. As part of a unique network of academic and industry partners, we have an over 10 million compound library to share as a foundational source to train these algorithms, and it's very high quality data. In our final session today, we'll see how this is working in the way we design the next generation of antimalarial molecules. With an open platform ethos, our objective is to provide broad access to these technologies for our partner scientists in Africa and beyond. This has the potential to accelerate anti-malaria drug development and develop machine learning expertise by many more scientists and for the benefit of all. So in conclusion, where are we going? We believe that the eradication of malaria is in sight. This is an ongoing challenge. And of course, we all know it's hampered by the parasite's ability to evolve and adapt. Dr. Alan McGill described this struggle using the concept he coined the Red Queen dynamics. And those of you who've read Alice in Wonderland, you'll remember that in the story, Alice must run as fast as she can just to stay still. And as a metaphor, this perfectly captures our situation. To make real progress, we must find ways to run even faster together. This means constantly improving our tools. We need solutions that are not only scientifically effective, but also practical. designed for the environments where malaria persists and focused on affordability, ease of use, and the needs of the patients and the people who need them. The science is, however, accelerating at an unprecedented pace. We are making real advances towards a single-dose cure. Long-acting injectables and more effective vaccines are combining to provide real energy, hope in prevention. The pipeline has never looked more promising, and our understanding of what's needed to eliminate malaria is clearer than ever. Yet this scientific momentum is unfolding against a backdrop of unprecedented challenges in global health. Funding is under pressure. Key institutions are stretched, and many countries are struggling to maintain even essential health services. The risk is real. Without sustained commitment, the gains we've made and the lives we could save are in jeopardy. Today, you'll hear about the major advances we're making, but also about the obstacles that we must overcome together. I invite you to engage deeply, challenge assumptions, and help us chart a path forward that matches the urgency and promise of this moment, to stay ahead of this terrible parasite and to defeat it. Proud as we are of the efforts to date, we must lift our ambition higher. Together, we have an informal collaborative network that has transformed the face of malaria medicines. Today's meeting is a critical step in seeing how we can continue to evolve and work together with ambition, with urgency, and true partnership to beat this disease. Thank you. So I have a few announcements before we go into the main program, if you'll bear with me, but this is really important for us at MMV, and I think it will be for you. We have 3 retirements from 3 very, very big leaders coming at the end of this year and the beginning of next year. And I just wanted to say a few words about that. It won't be the final celebration, I can promise you all that, but I think it's important to let you know, and hopefully we can all appreciate them with a round of applause. Firstly, Sylvie Fontaine-Drebec, our General Counsel. Where are you, Sylvie? Oh. She's in London, okay. She probably went to London on purpose knowing I was going to say this. I'm going to say it anyway. From the early days at MMV in 2007 as a contract officer, Sylvie has exemplified dedication, wisdom, and quiet strength. And her ascent at MMV culminated in her appointment in 2017 as our General Counsel, reflecting her growing influence and strategic vision. In 2024, Sylvie stepped into the interim CEO role during the transition between David and myself, guiding our organization with her signature calm and clarity. Throughout every chapter, Sylvie has been a pillar of composure and grace. Her legendary calm, especially in moments of pressure, has inspired many, me included. We celebrate Sylvie not just for her legal acumen, her flawless judgment, and wide guidance, but above all, how she carried herself with integrity and with warmth. So in Sylvie's absence, can we give her a round of applause? Secondly, Dr. Stéphane Duparc, our Chief Medical Officer. Where are you, Stéphane? Tim, you could have told me this. Okay. In Stéphane's absence, I'm going to say a few words. Stéphane joined us from GSK in 2007, where he was a medical director for Malaria, the first new antimalarial in many years, as we just discussed. Throughout his long and distinguished career, Stéphane has been a steadfast champion of medicines to prevent and treat malaria. As MMV's CMO, Stéphane has been the lead advocate of the patient at MMV. His primary job, the job of a CMO, is representing the benefit and safety of the people and patients in clinical trials and those who take our products. Stéphane has performed this role with distinction, impeccable ethics, and expert judgment. He also established our Global Safety Board, helped us navigate very complex medical decisions, and his leadership was pivotal in the development and rollout of many products, including tafenoquine, from the early trials in 2010 to its deployment in Brazil, Thailand, and India. A tireless advocate for patients, a mentor to many, and a trusted voice in global health. Stefan is known for his warmth, humility, and quiet determination. Whether discussing regulatory strategy or French wine, his thoughtful insight and generous spirit has enriched us all. So Stefan, wherever you are in the world, thank you. We wish you joy, good health, and many fine vintages. So I do know the last person is here. Viveka, please stand up. Third and finally, Viveka Kazubska, who will also soon be retiring from MMV after more than a decade of impactful and inspiring leadership. Viveka joined us in 2012 from Merck Serono, bringing with her over 25 years of global pharmaceutical experience across all phases of drug development. As our Executive Vice President and Head of Product Development, she's led our late-stage portfolio, working with our partners to bring forward exciting new medicines such as tafenoquine and ganaplacide. Beyond that, she's pioneered new approaches, which we will discuss this afternoon. The pregnancy registry with our friends in Kenya, which has led to the first interventional trial of an anti-malarial medicine in all 3 trimesters of pregnancy. Viveka's belief that it takes a village to raise a drug has been reflected in her clarity of vision, her commitment to equity in global health, and her ability to inspire teams with purpose and precision. Viveka, as you step into your next phase, we thank you for your dedication, your leadership, and the legacy you leave behind in the fight against malaria. We wish you continued success and fulfillment for the future. Now, I know for sure the final person is here because she's speaking next. But allow me to introduce Cristina Donini. And this is very important because Cristina, as of January 1st, 2026, will become our new head of research and development. She will oversee all programs from the earliest stages of discovery through to their approval in regulatory agencies. Cristina is a trained pharmacist with a PhD in pharmaceutical technology from the University of Parma. She postdoced in Purdue, and after working for GSK and Merck Serono, she joined us in 2012. At MMV, Cristina has played a pivotal role in shaping our early development portfolio and our strategy, and guiding very promising compounds through preclinical and translational phases, and more recently also leading our discovery team and our discovery portfolio. Beyond malaria, Cristina is the only member of MME to have climbed the Matterhorn, our iconic Swiss mountain. In parallel with her work on new medicines, she has worked on community outreach and youth engagement in the suburbs of Nairobi, taking teenagers up Mount Kenya, combining mentorship, empowerment, and adventure. Cristina, we're so thrilled to have you at the helm of our new combined R&D organization, and we really look forward to the new chapter with our partners of innovation for malaria medicines under your leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, Cristina Donini.
So I didn't climb Matterhorn, but I did climb Mount Kilimanjaro twice. So, good morning, everyone. We have a packed agenda, and I knew this would have happened, so I should have finished at 8:45. It's not going to happen, and you shouldn't ask an Italian to go fast because it's very dangerous. So I'll take my time, but I'll try to pick up some time. Before we dive into science, I would like to take a moment to set the scene and to look at where we stand, the priorities we have ahead, the challenges, and the prospect of new medicines for malaria elimination. You know this graph, and last year at ASTMH, we organized together with TDR, for those that actually attended, a fantastic symposium, and we had for the first time medicine, vaccine, and vector control on the same panel. And we were talking about progress as told, and David Fidok, who I see here, actually in the audience, asked the question, why is the progress stolen? What are the reasons? And there's no one single reason, But definitely at the time we said funding. And we didn't know what would have happened 1st of January in 2025. So if funding was an issue last year, it's going to be even more in the years to come. But we're also facing challenges such as resistance, prevention, including pregnant women into the prevention space. So biology is fighting back. We talk a lot about artemisinin resistance, but we need to think about also some SP resistance. We need to think about piperacin resistance. So we do see resistance looming over Africa, and we're not where we were in the Great Mekong region yet, I would say. So biology is fighting back. Prevention, we had 2 malaria vaccines now, finally. But if you think about the preventive tools that we have today, they're very selected in the target population. So we're thinking about infants. Thankfully, we're thinking about infants. But we also need to think about pregnant women, women of childbearing potential. We need to think about age school children. As a matter of 6, I know it sounds corny, but I think that I would want my daughter to be able to take something that will prevent a disease that could actually kill her. Prevention of relapse. GSK and MMV has done a tremendous job in bringing tafenoquine to the market. That's just a single-dose cure. So we went from 7 days of primaquine to tafenoquine, but still, tafenoquine needs to be used with chloroquine as a blood stage, and we need G6PD testing. So there's still some room for improvement, I would say. And we can't think about elimination without talking about transmission blocking. We do need to reduce the parasite reservoir. Do we do it from a host perspective? Do we do it from a vector perspective? It doesn't matter, but we need to decrease the parasite reservoir if we want to eliminate the disease. In 2024, we set up a strategy. Martin is very happy because he came in and the board said, here is your strategy. He said it all the time. So we set a strategy, and we talked about pillars. I like to see this one as a fan, and those are not really pillars. Those are like sections that are intertwined and connected. And so we are in year 2 of the implementation of this strategy. And I would say that we've done a lot of progress in curing and preventing. You'll hear about it today in the different sessions. But we start also seeing some intertwine of molecules that have long half-life that actually could even be used for a post-treatment prophylaxis. And then we have prevention that goes into elimination. And then we have the 4th pillar, where we were thinking about maybe we should use all the tools that we have and think about going beyond malaria. We were thinking a little bit. We do think that we need to stay focused. This is one of the strengths of MMV, is that we just talk about malaria and we focus on malaria. But those tools, those platforms, modeling, open access, can also be used in other diseases. And so it's something like, we can give it back to the community to find something that could helpful in other diseases. So then R&D is really focusing on these 2 big bets. And you can like it or not like the definition of big bets because it takes to gambling and poker. But I think it gives you an idea on how difficult that is. And have been criticized to maybe, raising the bar always, we go higher and higher and higher. As a mountain climber, I like to go higher and higher. In access, we also have big bets such as supply chain security. We're going to talk a little bit about local manufacturing. It's very important to make sure that the drugs are made close to the patient. Access is also thinking about containing resistance today with the tool that we have. In R&D, we think about the tool of tomorrow. Access is thinking, how can we use better the tools that we have today to manage the resistance? And then Vivax elimination with the great success of tafenoquine. If we go back to the R&D, single-dose cure and long-acting injectable, you will hear it through the day. We're going to start with resistance, and we're going to move then to case management and LAI. If you think about those 2 interventions, they have a common denominator, which is simplified treatment. And we are slightly obsessed with the simplified treatment. But let me tell you why we're so obsessed. This is a graph actually from an old paper, 2011. Marcel Tanner was in that paper from Malaria. And it was maybe talking about a specific area in Tanzania. But it's very much relevant even today. So you have your wonderful product that comes out from clinical trials, you register, and your efficacy is, let's say, 98%. And then you bring it into the field, and we all know that a drug is not a drug until it reaches the patient. So you start having issue with your health system factors, so access, making sure that actually you tailor that and that product reaches the the high unmet medical need. But then you go down into the individual factor, the provider compliance. So those caregivers that need to take they need to give 1, 2, 3 doses. And this is not just treatment. This happens in the prevention as well. Andrea-Marie will talk about the SMC experience that we have with SPAC. And at the end, the last choke point, as Paul Morima says, is the patient's adherence. So at the end, if you don't have adherence with your drug, you're doomed, and your 90A will go down as low as 40%. You could claim that there is a lot of variability in literature when we talk about patients' adherence. It can go as high as 100%, but as low as 40%. And the fact that you have such a huge differences and variability, it's also one of the reasons why we have resistance. This is one of the reasons why we have that gap that we need to fill. Hence, when we think about how do we want to cure the patient, we do believe that we need to, of course, address the drug resistance. This is our mainstream. This is what we do, starting from discovery, starting from lead up. We need to optimize according to the resistance. But we do need to enhance the convenience. And so what we're doing at MMV, together with partners, we're pushing that bar as high as we can. And some of you sometimes don't like us, but this is a partnership as well, so it's not all rosy. And we want to have therapies that can boost the patient compliance. Our beloved Professor Nick White said in the famous, at least for us, paper that is titled, and is difficult for an English non-mother tongue, "Is the perfect the enemy of the good?" He does criticize the fact that maybe we have been compounds that were good, and we did it because we were aiming for that single dose, for that moonshot, for that big bets, call it as you want. But it does give us some hope, because it does say, and of course I've taken only the sentences that I like in that paper, which is, if you can actually reduce the 3-day regimen, and of course without jeopardizing efficacy and safety, then that would be a welcome bonus. But to me, it's more than a welcome bonus. This is what we need to work towards. And hence the single dose. Caroline will talk about the single-dose cure from a Novartis perspective in the session in case management. Why are we so obsessed with single-dose cure? Well, because that could improve treatment compliance. You could actually reduce potentially the resistance. The fact that sometimes people don't take the full course of the regimen, I don't have to tell you because you're a malaria community, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that leads to resistance. It's going to be easier to administer in health systems that are already pretty weakened, and it can simplify treatment protocol. It does lower the cost because maybe your drug is going to be more expensive, but you don't have to redose it. And maybe the dose of the compounds could be even lower. And it does facilitate elimination efforts. And this is where, we're talking about cure, but I'm bringing in the elimination because there is this intertwine of a drug, a single-dose cure could actually be a fantastic elimination tool to have in the pipeline. Now we talk about prevention. Prevention is my pet project. We started with the long-acting injectable long time ago when nobody actually was believing in it. Preventing infection, Andrea-Marie will talk about the SMC experience. We will have a session around that. We're thinking about expanding the use of SPAC, and we know that we need to expand geography and age. But also, we need to think about other population. We need to think about migrant workers. We need to think about those school-age children. We need to think about pregnant women. And so what if tomorrow, instead of having a lot of pills, you go to a single injection? Again, at that HTMH symposium, we had Dr. Doumbia from Mali. He was giving us his experience on the field. And he said to us, well, usually I used to give drugs and they were giving me chicken. And then said at a certain point, instead of giving me chicken, they were giving me drugs back. And they were like, look at this, Dr. Doumbia. Those pills, we saved them. But that was like, it was a funny anecdote. But actually, that is the testament. And actually, they don't take all the pills that they have to take. They keep it and they give it back, thinking that actually is a good thing. So what if tomorrow we have a single injection that actually could protect for 3 months or longer, that could clear the parasites? And again, we're going into that intertwine in elimination. If it does clear the parasites, not like vaccine, not like monoclonal, not a criticism to those two tools, but if we can clear the parasite, then we can also enter into an elimination effort. And no cold chain, drugs, if they have one thing that is good is they're pretty stable compared to biologics. If they're safe, they're going to be affordable, more affordable than a monoclonal antibodies. So this is our next moonshot. This is our next big bet. It's bold, it's risky. We have 2 molecules in first in human. I think Andre will touch on this. So early days, but I think this is what we need to aim to in terms of prevention. Elimination. As I said, the new tools could be elimination tools, but we can also look at, we need to look at elimination also thinking about reducing the disease transmission. And so we can't talk about elimination without discussing transmission blocking. And as I said, you can do it from a host perspective, having your compound that has gametocidal activity that will hopefully kill those parasites and will not re-bring you back. So we break the cycle there. Or you can think about the vector. And so again, bold science, maybe it'll be crazy or thinking outside of the box. What if you have a pill that actually you can give, and that pill will kill the mosquito? So we're working on insecticides. We have some of our partners that are working with us in bringing into first in human a long-acting oral pills that actually, if given, could kill the mosquitoes. Flaminia catarrhucea will not be happy because she usually say, don't kill the mosquito, treat the mosquito. I'm a little bit more brutal, being Italian. So I think we need to kill the mosquito. But anyway, coming towards that 4 pillar, and I'm coming to close to the end, driving progress beyond malaria. So as I said, we have a lot of platform, we have a lot of tools, we have a lot of open boxes. Dominique is in the room here. He has worked on all the different iteration of those boxes. So we have a lot of knowledge that actually we can give back to the community. But all this knowledge and all those very strict TPPs and TCPs, we're raising the bars, we want single dose, no food effect, safe in pregnant women, we want it all, right? I think that helped us in getting into 2025. So on this graph, it's the only graph I'm presenting, so I feel like I'm a salesperson here and not an R&D head. But you have the predicted single dose on the y-axis and the years on the x-axis. When I joined MMV in 2012, we were working, I don't know if there's a pointer, with OZ439. Anyone that has worked with us have heard about the OZ439. So it was a nice molecule, but big dose, very difficult to formulate. And we tried and we tried and we tried. But then from OZ439, we're going down with the dose. So the dose is going below 100 milligrams. And the size of the bubble, maybe it's not the best representation, but I think it's graphic enough. The bigger the bubble, the higher the barrier to resistance. And so we have pushed that bar and we've pushed the teams to have long-acting, low dose to be amenable to single dose and push the MIR around 8 and 9. Now we have the first DHODH that actually seems to have a high barrier to resistance. So at the end of the day, if we didn't set the bar so high, maybe we would have not been here today. We would have continued to work in the space of an OZ439. Martin has talked about partnership, and I like to quote Bernard Oguto, who's here in the meeting today. He said last year at ACMH, it's not one organization that will eliminate malaria, but it's through partnership. So it's not going to be MMV, it's not going to be Novartis, it's not going to be an academic group, it's not going to be you name it, but it will be the partners. Oh, Bernard, you're there. It's going to be a partnership all together. All our partners have allowed us to get where we are today. It's a strong portfolio. You can criticize it. You can criticize us as a partner, but we're trying to do our best. And I think that what we want to also showcase today is the fact that for us, equitable partnership is very important. So having the voice from the field that comes, and a lot of you are the one that actually are living day in and day out, seeing patients with malaria. It's important to bring it back and to build even a stronger portfolio. Tremendous year for partnership in 2025, 2024, 2025. Martin has alluded to cohort and baby. I'm not going to dwell into it. Caroline will discuss it. Gunloom, this would be the very first non-artemisinin combination. 3-day dosing, so we're not canning everything down the road. But it would be a fantastic tool to have and to respond to resistance, because we need to be proactive and not reactive, although some others say that we don't have an emergency of resistance. Carbamycin pyranidine with Merck, Zydus ferroquin, we have GSK in the audience, LAI, we will hear more about it, and AI, as Martin said, we can't finish a conference or symposium without talking about AI. And we do love acronyms, as you can tell. So the DD4GH, we had a lot of debate. At the beginning it was the GHDD, but it sounded too much like Getty. And so this is drug discovery for global health. And Jeremy and the panel at the end will discuss about it. And much more. We have potentially the first chemical series that might have anti-hypnozoide activity with no G6PD liability. We're working on dual pharmacology with different partners. So there's much more to look forward to in 2026. And so I finished bringing back this in saying, to close that gap, yes, we need money. But maybe the fact that the funding is decreasing, is disrupted, it's an opportunity. Joy said it nicely. It's an opportunity, we need to look at opportunities. And that maybe is the opportunity to focus and look and aim high. We need bold science to close that gap. So I'll finish with this one. And I want to introduce you the next panel, which will talk about the landscape. I'm missing my agenda. Diane will read you the title of the of the panel discussion. I don't think I need to introduce Diane, but Diane is, for those who doesn't know, I would like to know who doesn't know Diane in the room. There you go.